students to Unit 7. In this unit, we're going to cover, again, one section of Chapter 7 of Layman's book. So we'll deal with Section 4 of Chapter 7. So read that and do the exercises there. In this section, we're covering truth tables again, but we're not talking about some of the big truth tables that you've had to do in some of the exercises, especially those that have four components or four atomic sentences. You end up having 16 rows, which can become very cumbersome, and especially if we added another to that, then we would have 32 rows, which become enormous and very unwieldy when you're trying to do truth tables. So an easier way was developed, and these are abbreviated truth tables. And so the idea behind an abbreviated truth table is that they're less cumbersome than some of the truth tables you would have needed to show that an argument is invalid, such as one, like I said, with 5 atomic statements that would have 32 rows. Abbreviated tables are helpful in simply showing that one line that you were looking for in a regular truth table, and abbreviated truth tables are helpful in simply showing that one line where all the premises are true and the conclusion is false, and thus the argument is invalid, or how it would create a contradiction and show that the argument is valid to make a line have all true premises and a false conclusion. So what you want to do in an abbreviated truth table is you lay the argument out like you normally have been with the regular truth tables, and you want to manually assign the truth values to the atomic statements, and then given the definition of the truth function of the logical operators there, then try to make the argument have all true premises and a false conclusion. And if you're able to do that, then you've shown the argument is invalid. And you didn't have to make a whole bunch of lines. You just figured out, kind of like a puzzle, what combination of truth values to the atomic sentences would make the whole, all the premises have be true and the conclusion false. And a good way to work is to work from the inside out. So figure out what the main logical operators are of each premise. You know the definitions of what will make those true, and then start working backwards to determine what would make each one true given the atomic statements, and work backwards in that way. So if you have a conditional as a premise, you want to take that and say, okay, then I need to have the consequent false and the antecedent true in order for it to be false. And then by assigning those truth values to those atomic statements, then if those atomic statements show up anywhere else in the argument, you have to assign that same truth value to those statements later, and then start working the puzzle to figure out what will make all the premises true and the conclusion false, and thus it be invalid. If you have a line where you cannot do that, where you have an atomic statement that you basically have to make both true and false and be contradictory or contradict yourself in order to do that, in order to make all of them true and the conclusion false, then the argument's valid. So these are very fun to do. They are extremely less cumbersome than the regular truth tables, and you'll have homework assignments with many of these to do. And in this section, we do not have a quiz, so just focus on the homework assignments and focus on mastering truth tables, but particularly for this unit, abbreviated truth tables for the upcoming exam.